Yeah, and Martin hapa.
And on to the news of today, President William Ruto has announced a new government framework to compensate civilians and security personnel who suffered injuries or lost their lives during demonstrations and public protests in Kenya. Proclamation issued on Friday today, Ruto said the initiative aims to balance constitutional freedoms with civic responsibility while addressing the human and economic costs of political unrests. And this task force is said it should take around 120 days.
That is approximately 4 months.
Yes, 4 months for reparations and compensation of the victims.
For reparation.
Yes, and compensations.
Okay, so ni kumaanisha if at all those people that were that lost their beloved ones, some they were injured during the demonstrations from 2017.
2017.
Okay.
Leave alone.
So it's like Zakaya ameamua kubeba mizigo ya pia
ameamua
ya nani anaitwaje? Ya
ameamua kubeba mzigo ya Jubilee administration.
Ya Uhuru Kenyatta.
You remember during
Baba
that
Jaden.
time? All the atrocities that happened during that time, the extrajudicial killings, the police brutality, all those crime that happened against victims, the victims who felt like they were afflicted, they are going to be compensated.
Yeah, so the main question here is is the move genuine ama ni pressure, because we've seen of late kumekuwa na issue na wrangles about the US na pia we saw back then before during the Gen Z protests pia kulikuwa na pressure from the ambassadors from Europe. You remember that presser they did? And
the foreign envoy.
Yeah, the foreign envoy. And of course the Europe countries. So saizi we know Gachagua kwa US and
Yes.
kumekuwa na hii ni
Matiang'i pia yuko huko.
Matiang'i pia yuko. Kalonzo
Kalonzo is around.
No, Kalonzo is not around.
He's not around.
Kalonzo,
where is he?
Is in UK.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like all the opposition leaders,
they're outside galvanizing.
Yeah, so and we saw Gachagua with the statement alifanya huko US na pia ile move by the Senate ya US a senator presenting a bill ama I don't know, a motion to look into the relationship between the US and Kenya in such a way that wanataka kureview ile na NATO. Itoaje?
Yeah, the NATO
non ally membership of Kenya to the NATO. So kuna hiyo. So
much is happening.
The move by Ruto, is it a pressure ama is it pia ni PR? Because according to the situation US, it looks like he doesn't really care about the nini. So I don't think that can be a pressure. I mean, as a kuwa apply pressure side yake and make such a move. That's according to me. And I see here the situation hapa anajaribu ku score a political point ndio apate. Unajua hata saizi kuna sha wameimba sha mdudu ikaenda sha so that song imekuwa monotonous, so they are trying to come up na situation ingine so itakuwa kama tool anywhere they go. Of course we saw by the time we are doing this video alikuwa shaenda kumazishia the Dr. Phoebe Asio in Karachuonyo. And we saw he spoke about that. And we saw Raila speak about that also na pia Mbadi speaking about that. So expect that to be a song enye imetuniwa na nani na mtukufu. Mimi namitanga mtukufu.
Well, I would like to give our president the benefit of a doubt. I've managed to go through an editorial that one of our editors wrote about this very same issue on President Ruto coming up with a task force on ensuring that those who were victims of police brutality and protests since 2017 should be compensated. And I have looked at documents. I have done my research on the Kenya National Commission for Human Rights website, and I have seen they have done so many reports on the Human Rights Watch and the number of people who've been killed, the number of people who have been disappeared, the number of people who have lost their loved ones, and they keep on ensuring that the members of parliament, the executive, and the powers that be at that time get the message and ensure that the people who are the least common denominator on all those reports that they have done, although they haven't been implemented to the fullest, is that the victims need to be compensated.
Okay.
And the fact that I've had actually Ruto doing or vouching the fact that these victims need to be compensated, I think more often than not, of course, with the current political climate, people might be skeptical of his way of doing things and his agenda behind why he would want to compensate the victims at such a time as this. But then again, it's a welcome move. Remember, these families are still crying. They have lost their loved ones. Some of them have lost their limbs. Some of them will never walk again. Some of them will never see or hear again, and so they have to live with that trauma, that pain. And also there's the issue of healing. There's the issue of seeing, of having that psychological healing, and just having that that catharsis of just breaking away from the trauma that they had experienced and just to move forward and just to be able to jumpstart their new lives, you know. So I think that the fact that Ruto has actually voiced this issue it's very pertinent. Let's not look at it politically as well. I know that probably Ruto is probably playing political gimmick around it, and maybe there's a little bit of PR, maybe there's a little bit of trying to signal the people overseas, like the foreign envoy, trying to hoodwink them or trying to show them that he has political goodwill in ensuring that the people who are involved in the protests, those who were killed and those who had lost their loved ones, are taken care of. But then again, I believe it's a really welcome move. And my question is if they're going to do this in a time span of 120 days, it's going to take a lot, because they have to follow the due process. And if the executive arm of government is going to be involved, that means that they have Ruto has said that the Treasury, especially Mbadi, CS for Internal Security, Murkomen, and the Attorney General, they are supposed to be involved in other state agencies. And I'm also thinking about the Victims Protection Act, which is in the Constitution, where it was brought out in the year 2014, whereby for a person to be compensated, the accused of those people who were detrimental and who ensured that the victims were afflicted, they need to be called out in court. So there needs to be a court process. So that means that court procedure has to start. The ODPP has to start. The task force, if the task force has been enforced, then there needs to be a fact-finding mission whereby they will go around the country to do reports together with the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights, together with the civil society, who are in liaison with the Human Rights Watch, the Haki group, and the Katiba Institute, and all those all the stakeholders who are involved in matters to do with human rights will be heavily involved to ensure that the members, the peoples, the victims who were afflicted during these atrocities, and also the police who were afflicted are taken care of. So it's going to be messy. I'm expecting it's going to be to be so messy. It's going to it might even take a home stretch of over 120 days. Where can you imagine going to do a fact-finding mission of up to 2017? Leave alone, we had people who were killed in 2020 this year, Sabasaba, then the demonstration of this year, then we have last year, then we have 2023, the ODM led demonstrations, then we're going back now to 2017. That is a whole lot, and there needs to be a criteria. The criteria on how to do it needs to be very, very clear. The funding, the process of how the money is going to be chunked from the treasury, and how the budgetary allocation for that is going to be disbursed for compensation needs to be clear and very transparent, because we have seen so many corrupt and graft cases coming out of these task forces and these groupings, whereby maybe the president is trying to do something, and then all of a sudden, you've heard of Hustler Fund, we've heard of so many government agencies getting involved in money embezzlement and graft and corruption. So that is something that we really don't want to see coming out when it comes to matters to do with something as sensitive as compensating of victims, because these victims up to now, they're still crying, they're still bleeding, and they need national healing, especially from the president.
Yes, we are talking about now the national healing. You understand? Let's take this tuchukue kama hii example. Uko kwa village, you understand, you are in the village, that's a village setup, maybe kwa homestead yako kwa Kuturkana, and then umekaa, mtu akakuja akaua mtoto wako, unaona, and then the first measure of the person that has murdered your child, kitu nafanya ya kwanza ni anakupatia pesa without telling you a word,
without remorse, without even acknowledging that,
accepting that hapa tumekosea, and we as a government will like to nini, wachana ile kuomba msamaha ile yafanya ile time ya breakfast, that was like it wasn't really, haikusit well na watu.
No, it didn't sit well with
unaona
people.
Because something like that inafata organize hivi, si na mtu anapenda kanisa organize kama event, and then aita hao watu the victims na wenye the families of those that lost their lives, hawaite, alafu kukuwe na in such a way that unajua kuna way ku apologize, hata mtu is need pesa yako. Kuna apologies zingine mtu anaweza accept without accepting your cash. Naweza niambia mimi yenyewe ushaniambia na nimekusamea. You understand, as much as of course compensation is their right, but kitu ya kwanza ni ile kuomba msamaha and accepting. Unaona, inafaa kuja sema as a President Ruto, nimekosea, unaona, na tulikosea since 2017, na on behalf of Uru's government and my government, I would like to ask for your forgiveness, and we accept that there was a police brutality that led to loss of lives. You understand, because up to now akuja kuwa na ile nini ya ku accept, not to accept, but ku take responsibility from the government side, because we saw Ruto has never even commented on that since the Gen Z protests zilianza. Hata since the Gen Z protests zilianza back then 2023, Ruto has never spoken about people who are being killed.
True.
Unaona, ni issue ya kugeuza. It's like now you are the victim and now na kuguilt trip. Now wewe ndio umekosea gava. That's why wewe mtoto wako amekufa. That's why hauna mguu moja. Una understand? Akuja kwa ile acceptance that I accept ni hii na hii na hii na hii. And kuna ile pia from even this year ama tuanze last year 2024. Unaona ile time ya during the Gen Z protests. Unaona tu ile reaction ya the president is like amejam saa zote.
Yeah.
Amejam yeye ni kandio yeye ndiye amekosewa unajua that if at all ako remorseful anataka kuleta ile environment ya kuomba msamaha, inafaa hata kwa hiyo nini ya commission yote ya kucompensate watu aweke pia NCIC.
Exactly.
Unaona ya apart from kucompensate watu nini mambo na cash, pia kucompensate morally. Una understand? Because unaweza nipatia pesa bado hujaniambia pole, I'll still be hurtful. Because unaweza nipatia pesa unanilazimishia wewe chukua pesa, na since maybe niko na mahitaji and I need that money, I'll take it, but I'll not really sitakuachilia kwa roho yangu. Una understand? So I think hata before he made that move, I'm not saying it's a bad move, it's a good move.
It is.
Una understand?
Step in the right direction.
Hata kama ni PR, hata kama ni nini, maybe to some people it sound that at least you are taking responsibility, but the first thing kwanza ilikuwa kuorganize a press briefing. Hata kama ni kuorganize press briefing, aongee aseme hivi na hivi ndio ili happen, and those police officers wenye waliua watu, they should all be brought to book.
Justice.
And those,
I think justice should be the first thing,
yeah.
Because those families are clamoring for justice. Mtoto mwenye aliuawa tu kwa nyumba with a stray bullet at that 12-year-old, I still feel for that girl.
And you remember even a send off when ilikuwa nini, ilikuwa emotional.
It was so painful.
Unaona? So imagine kuna mtoi, let's say for example, unajua kuna vitu wezi compensate. Let's say you can compensate to the family
money wise, but
no,
you
no.
cannot bring
but
the
now,
dead back.
But saa kuna issue na this was my friend.
Yes.
Uwezi compensate mtu kama huyo. Unaona, this was my best friend, this was my classmate, this was my nini. Unajua hizo ma relationship za nje apart from family.
Yeah.
Of course family atakuwa compensate mambo na doa, anaweza feel at least relieved, but saa kuna ile what about the friend? What about the worker? What about my boss mwenye maybe alipass through hiyo vitu? What about nini? Una understand? There are many factors. It's not all about cash.
Yeah, it's not all about cash. I understand what you're saying. I think what you're saying is very, very critical. The first thing that the family needs is justice.
Yeah, justice.
They need also to get responsibility. The government needs to take responsibility for their actions, because it is the state agencies, the police, that afflicted these people with police brutality and extrajudicial killings and disappearances and all that. So there needs to be, I think there needs to be like this, it calls for a national sit down, not only for the president, but also for the stakeholders.
That's why I'm bringing you in NCIC.
Exactly. I think also the president needs to, the national cohesion and integration, they need to be part of this. And plus the religious leaders, and plus I think all the stakeholders, I think from all over the country, because in the 47 counties, I believe there are so many people who have been afflicted with this, because protests were done in every part of the county. So there needs to be a criteria, there needs to be a structure, there needs to be a very, very linear procedure, and it needs to be transparent, and it needs to be on the public domain on how people are going to engage, because we need people to engage. They need to create spaces where these victims can actually ventilate and talk. I remember in South Africa when the apartheid was trashed, And so there was the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission
TJRC.
when TJRC was formed when President Nelson Mandela came into power, when he was released from prison in Rhodes Island in South Africa. And President Nelson Mandela was a true nationalist, and he's being remembered up to now because he did not polarize the country in racial lines like the whites who were in South Africa did. He decided to bring the country together. He decided to become a statesman first before becoming an African, before becoming a Zulu. He decided to bring the people, both the whites and the blacks, who felt afflicted, who felt victimized, who felt that they were ostracized by the system of apartheid. You know, there were also white people who were felt ostracized, and they were supporting the Africans, the South Africans. And so it was a time where victims came and spoke out the ills that were done to them. They spoke out on the things that they experienced. They spoke out the bitterness. They spoke out the anger. And you would also see members of the apartheid. They acknowledged the fact that the system, they were forced by the system to do what they did, and they were deeply sorry. You know, they felt if they couldn't take up the act of being remorseful, then they had the choice of going back to their countries. But for those who chose to stay in South Africa, they decided to turn over a new leaf. And I think it's very important, for if national healing needs to take center stage, there needs to be a space where the government and the stakeholders and the people who are involved, the task force, should create spaces for ventilation. The victims need to ventilate. They need to talk. They need to air out this bitterness. If they can bring out psychiatrists, psychologists in different counties, where they can go to grassroots, where people can now come together, so that there is a group between the police and the people who were affected, they can bridge that gap and have a conversation on how they can move forward as a country. I think that also President Ruto should not only focus on the money and the compensation, he should also focus on the mental health. He should focus on the psychological, physiological health. And if there's a way that the government can cater for the victims who have lost their way of life economically, maybe they can empower them, then that will be also be good. There is so much that can be done, not only compensation.
Yeah, so apart from that aspect, unajua out of maybe that meeting of that organization, like rallying everyone that maybe was affected, and religious people, and the way you've said. So from Apple, that I'm saying about pia when mkomea to accept taking responsibility, and inafaa ianze na kila mtu alikuwa kwa the former government.
Yes.
Hata kama maybe they are retired, someone like Matiang'i is still bado is active,
and he wants to buy.
Because now someone like Matiang'i, tunaangalia future.
Yeah.
So for you to be responsible in the future, you must take responsibility of your past.
Yes.
Past when you are in that office. Unaona. And then from hapo we take someone like Kindiki mwenye alikuwa hapo kwa mambo na CS. And then anyone that served as Inspector General, that the age of the police.
Yes.
During back then. Or even apart from being the IG, kuna hii pia regional polices.
Exactly.
Pia nafaa walete nini kukue in such a way that hata kani kitu kifanyika, before hata you include pesa, people already feel ile, unajua wanafeel connected na government.
Exactly. Yeah, because
hata pesa ikikuja, hata kama wapate, let's say for example wapate pesa kidogo yenye maybe hata kama pesa itakuja, it will not really feel like hapa nimekosewa. Wata feel enyewe hapa kuna mtu take responsibility. And then apart from taking responsibility, because right now we've seen someone like Murkomen alisema statement fulani alisema that the actions of the police during the protests, especially the Gen Z protests, were not an act of police brutality unless the court of law may state that as such. So that was like we are trying to, what are you trying to say? It doesn't make sense because right now we've seen the police officer mwenye amearestiwa kwa mambo na police brutality as per now, mwenye kesi yake ni kama inakaa ni kama serikali imemwachilia ni huyu Mayaliwa Boniface Kariuki. It's like it's the only one. And why do you think that it's the only one right now? It's because alikuwa captured on camera.
It was captured in the media.
Ilikuwa ni ngumu sana kumtetea na like gavata kiona tukiendelea kukutetea ni kama we are incriminating ourselves.
There's something that they are hiding.
You understand? So what should we do? Waliona what should we do? Wacha tuachane na wewe kufa na msalaba wake. But now the other ones wenye tulisikia walikuwa involved one way or another yenye haikuwa captured. Unaona? Awe wanajaribu
they're trying to dodge.
Wana dodge hizi manini. And then out of that maybe something that like that can happen. Apart from asking for forgiveness and saying that such a stuff will not happen, such a stuff tumekosea kufanya hivyo, you need to assure the public.
Exactly.
Like if the demos were held tomorrow, will the same thing happen again? Because kuna ile aspect ya unaweza sema like sitafanya. Unaona, it's like bado in a normal setup ya wife and husband. So when wife unashinda maybe unacheat, ama when husband unashinda unacheat, but unashinda ukiambia bibi yako nisamee, unasamehewa, alafu unafanya tena the same thing, unataka usamee tena unafanya the same thing. It makes sense. Hata kama ni mambo na relationship, wanasema bado kuna aspects za kuomba msamaha. Let's say for example wife and husband wamekosana na husband anajua my wife najua weakness yake, anajua anapenda pizza. So tumekosana asubuhi, mimi nimeenda kazi, alafu sisi nimejua aniacha wife kama jam, acha nifanyie nini, acha nimbebe pizza, it will solve. Unaona? So inakuwa ni kama it's like the pizza hapa inatumika kuerase hizo mambo ya talking, ku apologize, kuna nini na kutake responsibility na kusema utarudia. Una understand? That's what's happening hapa.
That's true.
And unajua of course people love money, but kwa mtu amekosewa na mtu alikuwa in a deep relationship na mwenye alipoteza, una understand, itakuwa ngumu just ku accept cash because pesa huisha. Hata kama unasema mambo na empowerment, si watu wote wako into business. Unaweza patia ufungule mtu biashara afu within 1 month imeenda, kwa sababu of course you are trying to help me, but you are trying to help me in a wrong way. That money cannot help me maybe do a business, because wapata biashara si nyota kila mtu. So what I'm trying to say, inafaa after hiyo wa assure the public that hiki kitu ita happen. Na wa take responsibility.
So there needs to be a way in which the state agencies actually come together to come up with a policy. Then this goes back to the National Assembly then.
Because I think the policies are there.
Assembly.
The policies are there. Maybe kuna rules zenye zina guide police on how to do their work.
Now the implementation part of
now
it.
Hapo ndio kunaikuwa na issue. Inakuwa that hii law happen and incriminate, acha to dodge.
But now then there needs to be a reform on how demonstrations are done and how the police are handling the demonstrators.
No, the nini are there. Unajua what's happening? Unajua that's why maybe unapata governor kama up na necessary ideas za implement za kuleta mambo na nitwaje referendum.
I think referendum is a good idea.
But now the laws are there. Watu wataki kufuata. You now want, unaona kama isa ile bili ya nani anaitwaje? Bili ya Pasaris. Unaona?
Now that one was definitely hakuna venye tungekubaliana na hiyo.
Unaona that is against the law that exists ya
hiyo hata it's against ODM thrives on
unaona. Sasa ndio nakwambia they are trying to come up na laws zenye zina favor, not favoring the common mwananchi,
that favors the like political class.
It's like if kama ile venye maandamano iliyofikia kwa nini kwa parliament, now I'm trying to prevent that. Next time ukifanya maandamano isinifikie.
Hiyo ni kweli. So the political class actually they are not being honest.
They are after their interests.
Yes, that is now the problem, and the Kenyans are seeing it. And so to the political class, they need to style up. They need to, know that we are watching, and every move that they make is going to either hurt their bid to become a member of parliament, MCA, a leader in the year 2027. So they need to watch out, because if they do not up their game, if they do not clean up their act, then they are going to go.
Yeah, so
itakuwa one term.
So shifting maybe to kiasi, let's say for example now they want to implement this stuff here. Now they've said it, and now I see a situation where now implementing that thing they said about now compensating the people, itaanza kuwa na issue.
Yeah, I already foresee that.
My issue here is
Macau Mutua.
My issue here is that according to me, I see a situation where they will rush solving the issues that imekuwa on public domain, that have been on the media, that have been trending.
So basically they're going to look for victims who have been trending on the media, those who have been hurt by the police.
Wacha niseme to the celeb victims. Kuna si celeb calligraph, but celeb wenye
you're putting it in a manner that bad taste like in my mouth.
They are known.
Yes, just they are known.
Na cases zao zimeenda viral.
Victims known.
Watu kama
Boniface Karaoke,
Ojwang, Alfred Ojwang, Albert
Ojwang, and then there's
the
this
case of baby Pendo, and the other girl that was killed the other
in
time
the house.
Na hizi zenye unaona kwa TV.
Yeah,
but
those
behind the scenes
there are so many. Yes.
Na issue hapa, because we saw the Boniface Karaoke's family saying that they tried reporting that issue,
but then
through the police.
Yes,
but walizuiwa kurecord statement.
They could not record.
They kumanisha up to date there's a possibility that
so
that
if
case
Boniface Karaoke's family predicament was on public domain and he was killed on site in front of the media, if for him recording a statement in the central police station was hard, how about wale ambao wamekuwa afflicted na police and it's not known? So then
so hapo ndio that's the issue, that's where the issue comes.
Yeah, so that's a problem.
And now what will happen to maybe a father or a sister or a mother who is trying to pursue justice to maybe to their people, their loved ones that whose lives were lost during the protests. So hapa kutakuwa na issue. Ndio nakwambia I see a situation where they will take maybe those cases unazapata zijafika, they are not many. Is the one that have been identified on TV or on the internet ama TikTok. Unazapata si mingi.
They're not
so many. So they'll take that and put them waipatie ile, unajua the government
prominence,
the government wakone talent kupatia like wakienda kina mahali, umaana hata kina nini, tumeanza na familia kina watoka kina Juang kama baby Pendo,
they'll make sure that they capture it on media.
So they'll give them your
a lot of prominence.
So the more you are listening to that, tumesolve,
they haven't.
Kwa macho ya watu wanafeel, kwa watu wajaafektiwa wanafeel hii kitu already ko solved.
I don't think Kenyans are that gullible. They know that there are cases out there that haven't been touched.
Now the issue hapa ni saa kuprove. because we saw a situation where in the city mortuary, now it's named Nairobi City Funeral Home, kumekuwa na cases za bodies kudampiwa,
Yeah.
allegedly. Hata si allegedly, wamekuwa on TV wakisema that kuna bodies kadhaa and kadha kama 200 zenye hazijapata wenyewe na zimekuwa ziko na gunshots, sijui na nini, na hizo features kuonyesha brutality na vitu kaa hizo. Unaona, so ni kumaanisha wenyewe wajui. Unaona, so zilifika hapo aje, because I know the process ya kuregister mwili mtu akisha pass, not even na mambo ya brutality ama nini, in any other case, mtu akipass maybe ugonjwa inafaa register na report kwa police station that mtu kama huyu na huyu na sharp amepass, you understand? So it's like in a way wanatumianga process kuweka kwa government records that such a person was alive but amepass, so it ceases to exist, you understand? So ni kama kwa government records wanaku delete in some way, that's why kuna death certificate, unaona? So kama watu kama wako wengi na kumekuwa na ile za pia allegations, sijui kulikuwa na mass murder mahali, unaona ile yenye unakumbuka kulikuwa last year kulikuwa na issue ati Githurai kulikuwa na mass murder, that's allegedly.
Yeah, there are stories about Githurai.
Kuna stories kama hiyo of which unless kuna watu walikuwa naishi hapo waliona, we can't really
eyewitnesses, yeah.
You understand? So let's say for example kitu kama ingekuwa ina exist, what will happen?
So I think for me, from all this discussion and all this deliberation, I feel so heavily that the president did not take his time to actually think and unpack
the
weight of this issue, because this matter is so heavy. It is so heavy, and he did not take time even to try and to dangle out a needle. Now that we are unpacking it needle by needle, trying to move a needle in this matter is going to be problematic, because it's not just about the money, it's not just about the compensation. It has a lot and a lot of issues. There's issues of accountability, because we are talking about money, compensation, we're talking about the process. How is this process going to be streamlined? We're talking about parties that are going to be involved. We've talked about the state agencies, and we cannot allow the state agencies to walk alone on this issue. We need the NCIC, we need other stakeholders, private stakeholders, we need people from the ground who are representing the victims to be part of that situation. We need the members of the religious council. They also need to be there. We also need the young people, the Gen Zs. They need to be at the center stage, because they're the ones who have been mostly affected by these protests, and they're the ones who have been most vocal in matters to do with politics, governance, and economic freedoms. So I think that there needs to then the parliament, how they're going to ensure that these monies are disbursed, the procedure, the budgetary allocations, the criteria, the people involved. There needs to be public participation. According to me, I think that this is it will be like the finance bill, whereby people were actually talking and we would have people actually voicing out opinions and, coming up with solutions and alternative ways in which the president can actually bring this issue to a logical conclusion. So I think the president, if you're listening, and your leaders, I think you need to take time to actually really unpack, because this is so heavyweight. This issue is so heavyweight.
I can defend him maybe. I think that was one of the agenda that they had kwa ile mambo na NADCO, I guess.
Yes, the
So maybe
NADCO report.
it just took it plainly the way it was indicated there. Maybe it would have been even wiser kama watu wa NADCO wangekaa wafikiri kitu kama hiyo
kabisa,
because now it's you're just doing half baked kwa sababu
Yes.
you wataka kuonekana unafanya kazi.
yeah.
And I guess I see a situation where we will not be surprised if, because we see in this situation, who are the people that were affected in 2017 and 2023?
In 2017 was during the elections.
What was the political situation that time?
Political situation, there was wrangles between Jubilee and the ODM, and
Who suffered the most? Let me ask that question.
so that now on the numbers now we'll go have to look for statistics there to find out. But of course there were people.
Basically, it
who
was Luo
suffered.
Nyanza.
Not necessarily.
I'm just saying, basically, like when you walipata ile hit, because you remember 2017, it was more that time hakukuwa naishi na Gen Zs. It was more of tribal.
It was between Jubilee and ODM.
Yeah, and it was more tribal.
Yes.
And
it was party.
there were cases where kulikuwa na police brutality Kisumu. Unaona?
Yeah.
Those are in public domain. Na kulikuwa unakumbuka pia 2023 during the maandamano ya
ODM led protests.
So it was more of ODM versus it wasn't about Gen Zs. So
yes, 2023 was ODM led protests against the KK regime.
So don't be surprised they watapatia hiyo weight more than mamada Gen Zs.
So that is why we are speaking out and saying there are things, because ye mwenyewe amesema, si ye mwenyewe ndio amekuja akasema on national television that victims up to 2017, meaning that hakuna kuruka, we are leaving no stone unturned. Everybody mwenye amesafa kutoka 2017, 2018, 20 wote mpaka sai, they need to be taken care of.
Okay, so I guess that's how it is. We just pray that everything goes well, especially for those people that lost their lives.
Yes.
We can't say that everything goes well with them. We just about their families
we
and their loved ones and their friends that wataendelea to kuwa comforted because of course depending on their religious beliefs. Kawa na belief kwa Mungu aendelee kupatia strength, because saa zingine inaumizanga, maybe ume lose your loved one, but unaona the way vitu zitakuwa handled, it's like now you are there when ndio umekose. Unaona?
Yeah.
Like mimi nimeenda, the constitution inasema you should go to demonstrations if something you feel aggrieved about a kitu. But sasa inakuwa ni kama kuenda demos, imekuwa demonized tayari you are committing treason kwa kuenda hold demonstrations. So I think that's what is supposed to change sahizi kwa nini. And then I think after hapa inafaa waanze kuarrest police officers wenye wanaenda against the law.
Yeah.
I think
actually CS Murkomen said today in the statement that if you're a police officer and you're caught doing on the wrong side of the law, then I think let's wait and see, time will tell.
Okay, thank you for tuning into Lightcast TV Kenya. Kama umetuacha paka hapa, tunashukuru sana, na pia tunaomba ubonyeze hapo subscribe button,
bonyeza.
Na pia unaweza share this broadcast to other platforms. Tuko live, tunakuanga live pia kwa Facebook Lightcast TV Kenya, na pia to get short videos of what's happening in Kenya unaweza crossover pia kwa TikTok at Lightcast TV Kenya, na unatufuata hapo, tunakuwa active almost 24/7, ndio?
Yes, thank you so much for watching. My name is Ninjela Workolek.
You can also tell us what you think about the topic amenye tumeongelea about William Ruto compensating those ones that lost their lives or were injured or lost their loved ones. Unaweza tuambia what do you think hapo, kwa nini? Is it a correct move?
Actually, can you please give us what are your interventions? What do you think William Ruto should do? What do you think the government should do in this issue? And how do you think it should be handled?
Yeah, so my name is Martin. See you in another video.
Peace.